Hello everyone. What you see here is everything we're going to need today to brew a siphon pot of coffee. I'm going to go through basically making this thing, and we're going to see how it goes. And you'll get to see me enjoy it at the very end, and hopefully this will inspire you to make the jump over to Syphon brewing. In my last video, which you guys should totally watch if you're just starting here, I go over all the equipment that comes with the siphon, and then in this video I'm going to assume that you have a scale, a timer, a burr grinder, a coffee cup, a kettle, and of course beans. Everything else, those are pretty key things to almost any coffee preparation. I am going to be doing this though without a thermometer because I don't really care about that detail that much, and some guys do. So if you want to get a digital thermometer and spend 40 bucks and get really exact temperatures, that's great. I will not be doing that. I also will be doing my own method of brewing in different timings. I like a really good extraction. I like using as few beans as possible for the best extraction, and that's what I'll be doing today. So let's get started. Our first step is going to be measuring 40 grams of coffee beans. It's the 30th. These were roasted on January 22nd in Oakland. Let's let the scale sort of figure itself out. This is actually what I got out of my old Butane bistro grinder that is going to retire soon, but it's a Hario glass, or it's Butane glass. It's tempered, I believe. It's very sturdy. I dropped it on like my wood floor a lot. It's never broken. So right now we're at 0. Let's add 40 grams of beans. Okay, we're right at 40. Look at that. It's probably the first time I've ever done exactly 40. We got our 40 grams. Let's put this to the side for now. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to fill, make sure this is in focus, we're going to fill this guy here, the siphon, to the 600 milliliter line, or 5 cups, which is roughly 18, 19 ounces or 17 ounces. Yeah, 5 cups of coffee is 1 cup for me, but you know, some people might want to brew less. You can convert all the grams or milliliters to ounces if you like. But yeah, so we're going to fill this with water. I'm going to use filtered water from my bubbler. Tap is fine, but it really is recommended that you use a clean filtered water. Even a Brita would be fine. Before we continue, a note on the glass. So this glass here, the bottom is tempered and heat resistant, and it's very sturdy. The glass that goes on top of the siphon is not as sturdy. This will most likely break long before the bottom piece does, so be very careful with the top one. Actually, be careful with both. While we're converting this over to our Hario kettle, I wanted to make a quick note for you guys to keep in mind, which is make sure this pot is not wet at all. It's completely dry. You can't feel any moisture at all. Grab a paper towel and make sure that it is completely dry, because if it's not, it will be more prone to breaking if it has any water on it. Ignore my very dirty oven here, or stovetop. Put the rear on high, put this on. This is completely optional. You guys don't have to do this. What this does though, by using an electric kettle or a stovetop kettle, is it enables me to not have to use as much butane, because getting room temp or cold water that's filtered up to boiling temperature with this guy, it takes about 10 or 12 minutes. This way, this becomes boiling. When it does, I transfer it over to the kettle, and then this is like a minute or 2 operation as opposed to 10. While the water is about to start boiling, we will go ahead and move this way, this way. That way you can access, make sure this is in focus, make sure you can access both the starter and the burn controller like this. We're also going to prep our filter. Now I'm using a cloth filter, this came with, but I also have paper filters. This is what will come with your unit. It's a cloth on the top of metal. If you want to use paper, you have to buy a different one of these guys that supports putting a paper through a little piece that sticks out here. This is wet, moist. It was washed thoroughly, and it's a little bit coffee stained, and it's also been soaking in warm water for the last couple hours to get it at a good temperature. Putting this through here, like so. You can use your finger here to make sure everything is lined up, and then we pull this guy down, just like that, and put this to a place where you won't accidentally bump it and knock it off your counter. While we're doing all the rest of these things, the water is still kind of boiling over there. This is butane fuel. When you get your burner here, it's not filled from the factory, even though mine was for some reason. You put it in the bottom here, just like a Zippo, and you fill it, just like this. And then it takes about 20-30 seconds to fully fill it, and that'll last you a couple of batches of coffee. So keep this with you at your desk. at home, make it somewhere easy. It's best to fill it in an under ventilated room because you can get carbon monoxide poison from it and feel very ill. Now we have our very hot water. We are going to pour it directly into here. Pour carefully, because if water does get on the edges down at the bottom of the pot, you might have to clean out with a paper towel to make sure there's no water on the bottom. Okay, very good. That is filled. Now we will start this guy here. We're turning this guy, turn it on. Put this right in the middle. That will stop moving. Don't push this down too hard, just enough to kind of get a nice little seal, but don't push so hard that it's impossible to get it out, because this seal will expand a bit when it gets hot. You have a really tough time getting it off. While that's cooking, let's go ahead and grind our beans. We are about to witness the boiling. Find your stirrer. I like the bamboo stirrer that I got off Amazon. Coffee's ready. You'll start to see some bubbles coming up through here. Now at this point we're going to reduce this to almost the lowest setting. Now at this point you really could drop your thermometer in here and see if it's at 195, 200, something like that, but me personally, I wait a minute or so. I feel pretty good about this. Let's just go and pour the coffee in. Quickly immerse it using your bamboo. Make sure every bit of the grounds gets wetted there. There we go. Burner is still going. Cover this. Now you'll see the separation here between the grounds and the rest of the coffee. That's okay. Now while this is going on, we started our timer. We're at 40 seconds now, so we're going to give it a stir. Just 2 good stirs, maybe 3, maybe 4. Just get this stuff off the edges and down in the coffee. Now, one thing to keep in mind here, if you're too low, some coffee will start to come back down here. If you start to see any brown color at all, then you know that your thing should be a bit higher. Usually at this point, I can give it a little bit more power, just to make sure that nothing is going to fall down there. Right now, we're at a minute. At a minute 20, I'm going to give it another stir. And usually that's the point where people will start cutting the heat and letting it fall down. I like to do mine for about a minute 45. Just keep in mind that there's no brown coming in there. Now when I do kill the heat, I'm going to give it one more vortex to let and all the grounds that are up here, give one more chance for them to get into the coffee, into the water a bit more. So we're at minute 50. We're going to cut power. Remove from heat. We give it another vortex here. And then cover. And watch the magic happen. So total brew time from immersion to the final pull here was just over 3 minutes for me. We got some bubbling here to show that it's just pulling an air at this point. I'm going to let this sit for 4 minutes, kind of a decanting. This will get removed. This will sit for 4 minutes and just sort of chill out for a little bit to cool down. This guy here is going to be really hot, especially at the base. And since I'm going to be washing this anyway, holding the back here in the handle to make sure I don't pull the whole thing up, I'm giving this a little bit of a shimmy. Break the seal, then lift, and move over here. This can be set aside for a bit until that cools off enough for me to keep cleaning the coffee beans. The wand as well will go over there. And now this, after about 4 minutes of waiting, is ready to be poured. Now before the coffee experts jump in here, I will note that I brew too hot, I brew too long, and I might even grind the beans to be too fine. So watch the videos and see which works for you. I like really strong coffee. I don't like to wait too long for it to brew, and I also don't want to use a thermometer. So this is the kind of result that we get for that kind of video.